Welcome to CaseWare QuickVids. This QuickVid demonstrates the Cash Flow Worksheet feature in CaseWare Financials. The Statement of Cash Flows Worksheet is a tool used to assist in the efficient and accurate preparation of the Statement of Cash Flows. The Statement of Cash Flows Worksheet documents the supporting calculations for each individual line item on the cash flows statement organized by activities. The Cash Flows Worksheet is easy to use. It assists in balancing the statement of cash flows, maps directly to the trial balance, allows direct input for non-trial balance items, and rolls values forward each year, thus saving time. Please note that for this demonstration, Financials Canada will be used. There are two main components to the Cash Flows Worksheet: the Cash Flows Summary and the Cash Flows Areas. The Cash Flows Summary acts as a compressed cash flow statement to assist in ensuring that all cash flows items are analyzed and that the cash flows are in balance. The Cash Flows Summary has two areas: the Summary by Activity and the Cash and Cash Equivalents components. All calculations created in the other parts of the worksheet are automatically transferred to the Summary by Activity. Once the individual analysis items in the areas are completed, the totals are transferred to the summary. In the Cash and Cash Equivalents components, you are required to define the components of the ending balance for cash and cash equivalents. Select the map number using the drop-down selection, or manually type the descriptions and balances. I have not mapped the Cash and Cash Equivalent components yet, and I will need to do this before moving forward. Using the mapping drop-down, I'll map number 111 and 113 respectively. Notice the change to the Summary by Activity. The other main component of the Cash Flows Worksheet are the cash flow areas. There are up to 5 cash flow areas available for the Statement of Cash Flows. Quickly access the areas from the Navigate ribbon. Each cash flows area represents a section of the Statement of Cash Flows and consists of multiple activity tables, with each table calculating a line item on the Statement of Cash Flows. With some background information on the components of the worksheet, we can better understand the workflow of the Statement of Cash Flows worksheet. The workflow is as follows: determine the appropriate reporting method, determine the number of items for analysis, perform the analysis, name the analysis, and ensure that the Cash Flows worksheet is balanced. We recommend the firm pre-populate the Cash Flows worksheet in the master template with preferred mapping and descriptions prior to distribution. This will create a firm standard and will save the staff time. If permitted by the template author, the first step is to determine the appropriate reporting method, which will either be direct or indirect. This is done by navigating to the Statement of Cash Flows in the Financial Statements document. Select the reporting method in the Statement of Cash Flows ribbon. As you can see from the drop-down, the choices are direct or indirect. Depending on your template, you can also go into the options to choose whether or not you want to show supplementary cash flow information. When you're satisfied with your settings, select the Navigate ribbon, and then choose Cash Flow from the worksheet grouping. This will take you directly to the Cash Flows worksheet. The interface of the Cash Flows worksheet is similar to the financial statements. However, there are slight differences between the US, Canadian, and IFRS template. In the ribbon, you can access several features, settings, and navigational tools. You can sort, add, and delete new lines and activities, as well you can choose the views. The Warnings and Active Items Only features are especially useful. Now, I have already set my reporting method in the Financial Statements document itself, but Financials gives you the option to choose the reporting method from within the worksheet too. The default method is based on the settings in the Financial Statements document. If there is a discrepancy between the methods in the financial statements versus a Cash Flow Summary worksheet, a warning will appear like so. I will keep my default reporting method. The second step of the workflow is to determine the number of analysis items for each component of the cash flow: operating, investing, financing, and so on. Each analysis item represents one line on the cash flow statement. A total of up to 99 analysis items can be created in each cash flows area. As you can see, there are only 7 analysis items in my operating activities. In this example, say we require 8 line items in the financial statements for operating activities. We would have to create 8 analysis items in the operating activities of the cash flows worksheet. To create an additional activity, from the Table Tools menu, select Insert and then choose Activities. I only want this one activity added, so I will click OK. Notice the new operating activity 8 is created. The third step is to perform the analysis, or in other words, analyze the items. You can create any combination of accounts in the analysis table to support an individual cash flow item on the cash flow statement. You can select an account from the mapping structure, or the mapping number may be left blank, allowing you to input data into all fields. The new analysis item is to be a taxes payable item. In this case, the analysis of the item requires the map number 217. Since I've selected a mapping number instead of manually inputting data, I will have to choose the appropriate behavior for the balance. There are 6 behavior options: A, active; AN, active negative; P, prior; PN, prior negative; D, difference; and DN, difference negative. For example, an increase in inventory over the prior year is a use of cash and would therefore have the behavior set to DN. This line item requires DN, which calculates the balance by reversing the sign of the difference between the active and prior period balances. The next step is to name the analysis. Each analysis item should have a unique name. The name entered in this area will be the name that appears on the statement of cash flows. In this case, the analysis item will be referred to as increase, decrease in income taxes payable. The final step is to balance the cash flows worksheet. From the Home ribbon, click on the Warnings icon. The current year worksheet is out of balance by $4,250. After reviewing the cash flow worksheet and knowing my client file, I realized that the investing activities is missing the gain and proceeds for the disposal of property, plant, and equipment. To add the missing information, right-click on a line item within the analysis. Select New Row. Insert 2 new lines, and then select OK. The first line item can be mapped to Gains on Disposal, and the behavior assigned to this line item is AN, which calculates the balance by reversing the active period closing balance. Notice in the cash flows worksheet, the warning is now out by negative $3,000. The second item will be Proceeds on Disposal with a value of $3,000 for the current year. This can be manually inputted since the worksheet allows you to input values where values do not exist in the trial balance. Notice the cash flows worksheet is balanced. You must take care of the behavior, the use or source, of the value when manually entering in the worksheet. With the worksheet balanced, save it and navigate to the financial statements. Do this by accessing the Document Manager or by clicking on the Minimize Financial Statements document. You will notice that the total values and names of the analysis items we've set up in the worksheet appear as separate line items within the statement of cash flows. Note that occasionally refresh issues may occur. If changes made to the cash flows worksheet are not reflected in the cash flow statement, close both documents and reopen to refresh. This concludes the QuickVid on the Statement of Cash Flows worksheet. For additional resources, including documentation and online help, see the related links. Thank you for watching CaseWare QuickVids.